Welcome back. Today, we're digging into something pretty fascinating, the actual mechanics of crafting a spell. And no, we're not talking about fiction or fantasy here. We're looking at the principles documented in historical occult texts. This isn't about waving wands. It's a really interesting system of applied psychology and symbolism.
Okay, so let's start with this quote, because it really gets to the heart of the matter. According to these sources, magic isn't some force you pull from the outside world. Not at all. They describe it as a latent power, something that's already inside every single one of us, just waiting to be activated by our own minds.
So if this power is internal, how do you actually use it? How do you direct it? Well, the sources lay out a very clear framework. You can think of it like a psychological engine. And this engine, it runs on three core things. All right, first up, will. This is the throttle on our engine. And we're not talking about just a casual wish here. The texts are very specific. Will is a powerful, super-focused desire. It's the firm concentration that actually projects your intention out into the world. Next, you have imagination. You might see this called fantasy in some of the older writings, but it's the same idea. If will is the force, then imagination is the blueprint. It's your ability to create a crystal clear, vivid mental picture of what you want to happen. It gives form and shape to the raw energy of your will. And the final piece of the puzzle is belief. This is the ignition key. It's described as the activating principle, this unwavering conviction that what you've built in your mind is real. It's the absolute certainty that gives life to the whole process. Without it, the engine just never turns on.
So you really have to wrap your head around this because it's a pretty radical idea. These systems operate on the principle that thoughts are literally things. They're not just quiet sparks in your brain. As the quote says, when you animate them with focused desire, they become living creatures with substance and agency.
Okay, so we've got this engine inside our own minds, but how does it actually connect to the world outside? I mean, how does an internal thought affect external reality? Well, the answer they provide is through this incredible system called the doctrine of correspondences.
You can think of this doctrine as magic's operating system. It's this idea that everything in the universe, we're talking planets, metals, colors, plants, numbers, you name it, is all connected in this huge, invisible web of symbolic relationships. Things that seem totally unrelated on the surface are believed to share a kind of symbolic frequency.
And this is where it gets really practical. Just look at these examples. The sun is linked to gold and has an influence of success. Mars is linked to iron and influences conflict. So let's say a practitioner wanted to create a spell for love. They'd use materials that correspond to Venus, things like copper or the color green, to basically tune their spell to the right cosmic frequency.
Okay, so we've got the internal engine, will, imagination, and belief, and we've got the external language of correspondences. So the big question is, how do you actually put it all together? How do you craft a spell?
Well, one of the main ways described is by creating something called a talisman, which you probably know as a talisman. The best way to think of it is like a physical battery for your intention. It's an object that you create and then charge with a very specific purpose, and you often do it when the astrological alignments are just right for what you're trying to achieve.
And wow, the level of detail here is just incredible. According to one writer, Safriel, making a talisman is a super precise, ritualized act. You'd start by carving a planet's magic square, which is this special grid of numbers, onto the right kind of metal. Then, on the back, you'd put the planet's seal and a symbol for its guiding spirit. You'd draw protective circles, add a verse about its purpose, and then wear it. It's this amazing blend of math, astrology, art, and pure focused will.
But here's the thing. That very formal, object-based method isn't the only way. You can contrast it with another technique, the sigil. While a talisman uses universal symbols and a physical object, a sigil is purely psychological. It's a totally personal, abstract symbol you create from the letters of your desire. And then, and this is the wild part, you're supposed to forget about it, letting it sink into your subconscious to do its work.
Of course, whenever you start talking about this kind of power, you absolutely have to talk about the ethics of it. And these texts are very, very clear that this whole thing is a double-edged sword. So you'll see these sources make a big distinction between white magic and black magic. But what's so crucial to understand is that they're not talking about different kinds of power. The power itself is seen as completely neutral. The only thing that's different is the intent of the person using it. Is the goal to help, or is it purely selfish and harmful? That is the only thing that matters.
And that really brings this whole concept right back home, doesn't it?
It takes it out of these old books and puts it squarely in our own lives. Because if the core idea is true, if focused thought really can shape reality, then it leaves us with a pretty powerful question to ask ourselves. What spells are you casting every single day without even realizing it?